Planet Earth, welcome back. Thanks for watching Action Figures. My name is Richard. Today, I'm excited to welcome a guest that I've wanted to have a conversation with for a very long time, Mr. Brett Lashbrook.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Owner and GM of the Las Vegas Lights Football Club. Thanks for being here, buddy.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Awesome. So let's dive into it because you have an awesome operation here. I mean, when I see this, all I see is risk. But clearly you have some fortitude here, especially with what we've been dealt with in recent days. So let's dive into it.
It's been an interesting time for the live entertainment business.
Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely. And we're going to get into that. So first I want to talk about, because we were talking off camera before about, you went to law school, and then you kind of subsequently went right into the sports world.
Yep.
And, just so the fans can kind of, you were on the New York City Olympic bid.
Yep.
You worked for the Phoenix Coyotes
Yep.
in the NHL.
Yep.
Was sports always in your blood, or where did that come through?
Yeah, sports was always the number one passion, right? As a kid, and it was interesting growing up. I'll call it in the '80s in the great state of Missouri.
Yeah.
It wasn't soccer, right?
Yeah,
it
for
wasn't.
Sure, right.
It was football, basketball, baseball, and growing up with those as the staple. And I really didn't fall into soccer till later in my life. And probably like 99.9% of us, right, quickly realized I wasn't going to be a professional athlete,
Right.
but absolutely loved all things about sports. Just like there's so many of us, right, that just you get consumed with it, especially at a young age. And I was very fortunate to have a lot of, I'll call it, business-minded people in my life and in my family. And so when you start to realize, okay, we've got to go find a job, you start to realize that there's a business side of sports, and was just drawn to it from a very, very young age. And was fortunate that just one thing kind of led to another,
Right.
but always knew, and I feel very fortunate, right? I think there's a lot of people in life that don't quite know what they want to do, and I feel bad for them, right? Because I knew at such a young age I wanted to do something in the world of sports business. Awesome. And it gives you I'm not going to say a leg up, but it certainly gives you a head start on your career when you have a clear kind of vision in your mind that this is your true north.
Yeah, and I think having a vision, we were talking, but having a vision that's kind of the master key. If you don't know where you're going, if you don't you're not going to be able to develop a roadmap. But I think one of the reasons I wanted to have a conversation with you is, I think so many young people around the world look at a Messi or Ronaldo or a Jordan or LeBron, or pick the star in the sport. It doesn't matter. And they say, I want to be that guy.
Right.
But no one thinks about the owners and the GMs. And that, to me, that's fascinating, because nothing against those guys. Phenomenal talents. But listen, those guys are still guys with jobs. Very good jobs, very well-paying jobs. But it's the guys above them that have to sign the check that have always been fascinating to me. And so to get a chance to have this conversation was exciting for me, because I don't think a lot of people consider that aspect. And maybe it's just because a team owner or a GM isn't as famous.
Well, I think it's also that's not the fun, that's not the sexy part, that's not the public-facing part, right?
That's the celebrity part.
I don't know if I'd say celebrity, but I am a big believer, and I've said this, and not everyone agrees with it. We are in the entertainment business. And we have to make people smile. And people are spending their hard-earned money on a Saturday night to come here with their significant other, their buddies, their family, whatever it is. They don't want to know about the business side. They don't want to focus on the business side. They don't want to think about it, right?
Sense.
They want to come here and be entertained and cheer for their local team. So I don't think we, not that we're hiding anything, right? But I don't think we want to, as team owners, kind of lead with that, right? The lead is what that entertainment product is. Of that, and I always say it's live, unscripted entertainment, right? The riskiest kind of all, right? You don't know how the movie's going to end every time the doors open. So,
that's awesome. How did you acquire your business acumen? I mean, was it a lot of it on the job? I know we talked about you going to law school at Marquette, but certainly that's not. It doesn't seem to have a lot to do with what you're doing now.
Everyone kind of falls into different ways. One is my family, right? Of having a very strong and loving family with a lot of people involved in business, right? So I always had that understanding of entrepreneurship growing up, even though I didn't quite understand it, but I saw both the struggles of it and I was very fortunate to understand kind of what was kind of behind the curtain on all these types of businesses without fully understanding it. Then, like I said, I just had this passion for sports business, and one thing led to another, and I've had some great mentors along the way that have really helped me. I also think every opportunity that I got, like so many other people, right, you make the absolute most of it, right, especially in your 20s, and if you're willing to move around and do stuff, I'll call it outside of your lanes as appropriate, that, you know, this is like any other business, right? If you can prove that you can provide value to a team or an organization, 100%. An event, good things will happen. So I just feel really, looking back on it, I'm not sure I ever thought I'm going to own a professional soccer team in Las Vegas, but I also see that the 20 years before this of the skill sets learned and the people that I learned from, how this has actually been the perfect culmination project for my career. So I feel really fortunate about that.
That's awesome. You mentioned mentors. Are you still in touch with those mentors?
Yeah, so I worked at Major League Soccer for many years, so there's some individuals there that I just learned so much from, and then from other jobs along the way, right?
Sure.
And I always say, mentors aren't just people that kind of take you under the wing and they help teach you and they bring you to meetings, et cetera, et cetera. I think there's also other teams and other things that other teams and other organizations are doing that is actually a mentor, if that makes sense.
It does.
I don't mean to get sidetracked here. Today with the internet, you have access to so much more information than what you had in the 80s and 90s, right? You can learn so much via the internet, YouTube, podcasts, everything. That I almost call that's half the mentorship, is you have to go out and seek this type of information, and if you truly love learning that type of stuff, that stuff is there for the taking, and I think it starts to separate as you get further along of if you're really learning as much as you can.
Yeah, no, I agree. You mentioned capitalizing on opportunities that you were presented. How? I think I know the answer to this, but for you, how do you pinpoint and say, that's the opportunity that I want to go for? Because I'm a firm believer, not everybody ends in the same place, but I believe that at least as far as I can tell, almost everybody at least gets one opportunity in their life to seize that. And whether we take advantage of that because of fear or finances, whatever, is that a skill that you can acquire, learning to recognize opportunities? Is it a gut feeling? What's your thought on that?
I don't want to give you too much of a wishy-washy answer.
Sure.
Everyone walks in a different pair of shoes, so everyone is presented that quote-unquote moment or moments in life at different stages of their life, and every life is unique, right? So I certainly wouldn't want my answer to come off holier than thou, right? But I think there is an intuition, and I think that there is certainly some people are wired and built for entrepreneurship, and some people are not, and that's doesn't mean good or bad, right? It's type A and type B personalities, right? It's being very black and white on some things and very artistic on other things, right? There's all different types of people in the world, and it's as needed. But when you talk about when did I know, like how to take a risk, when did I know to go for it? I think it's something that's, one, based on where you are in life, can you do it? But I think it's also just the level of comfort, right? As I've gotten older, I've realized, some friends are just more comfortable working in big business in a clearly defined runway of a lane,
right?
And others like to paint outside the lines. And the more and more as I get older, and not to ramble here too much, right? That there are builders and founders, and there's operators, and there's people that can sustain things, right? And there are really different skill sets for each of those. So everyone's wired differently, and you just got to figure out where you're wired best.
No, I like it. What you mentioned working for MLS, and we talked a little bit about it, but how do you remember, was there a catalyst moment for you when you said, I want to own a team, or I would rather just continue working for a team? Do you remember how that transition was for you?
From a very young age, very young age, I knew I wanted to run a team. I did not think that I would be in a position, incredibly fortunate in my life, that I would be in a position to be able to quote unquote own a team. My almost singular focus on all these jobs in my 20s and 30s was how do I operate a team? That was what the business side of a team. How do you, from the branding to the promotions to the tickets to the sponsorships to the community, how do you organize that on-field aspect? How do you put it all together and become a part of a community? That was I don't think it's too much of an exaggeration. That was a singular focus for 15 to 20 years of my life to get into this position, and I had worked at other teams and kind of in increasingly senior roles. But I was fortunate once I moved to Las Vegas that there was an opportunity that this was the second largest city in the world without professional soccer. There was a city-owned facility with 10,000 seats that the baseball team was looking to leave. The mayor had been incredibly supportive of professional sports. They didn't quite know what the future of the stadium was going to be. And I had just worked 20 plus years in soccer at both the Major League Soccer and the United Soccer League level, that I was able to kind of put this together and through friends and family put a group together to start the Las Vegas Lights.
That's awesome. Now, I think a lot of people, when they look at an operation like this and they see all the successes that you've had, and even though the franchise is still, in my opinion, still in its infancy,
Yeah, absolutely.
and has a lot of runway ahead of it, they see this and they think it's all, they only see the glitter, right? But they don't see you when you're toiling away in your office at midnight, trying to figure out a budget or how to acquire a new player or something. So I think it's fascinating to get the back end of that story because, again, you come here and you see you come here on a Saturday night and it's just one big party, and they don't realize how many hours you put in.
So it's certainly not as glamorous as it may seem
I can imagine,
on the outside, right? But I think it goes back to one of my previous answers. I don't think, we're not hiding anything, but I don't think, business owners necessarily want everyone, like if the product is on the field, that's where the attention needs to be. The product is inside the stadium. And all the work that goes in behind that. Well, I'm happy to talk about it. There's no secrets per se, but it's certainly not what we lead with. And I think most small and medium-sized business owners out there would know. There are days that are a grind, or moments in time that are a real grind to how do you operate this business? How do you sustain it long term? How do you build it from the ground up? And I, like I'm sure others, right, have made mistakes and made missteps and had to pivot. And it's not always easy, clean, or perfect, but it's also nothing else I'd rather be doing.
Yeah. Have you always had kind of that hustle?
I think so, but I think that's probably more for other people to say. But I have always loved the word hustling, right? And I think in so many ways that the word can be misused, right? If you're getting hustled, and I always think, that's not exactly what the word means. I do consider myself one.
Nice. I think that's important, especially, I guess when you think about the fear aspect of being an entrepreneur and having so many people rely on you to execute daily, is that a lot of pressure? Do you feel that anyway? I mean, I'm sure it is, but
sure, right? Anyone who would say no would be lying, right? So yes, of course. I think professional sports is also a unique situation, right? Because as people have said, there's not too many, call it small, medium-sized businesses that have its daily results, in the newspaper, right? The person who started a widget company, right, is under just as much financial stress. And how do we do that? But there's not the bright light of 8,000 people knowing are you winning or losing.
Right.
So that certainly adds more pressure to it. But I'm not sure pressure is the word. It's just this is what you got to do, and you got to figure out a way. And I think it's a healthy pressure.
Yeah,
but it doesn't mean it's easy, right? I don't know. I want to make sure I don't sugarcoat that, right? That there is lots of twists and turns and ups and downs. I think whether you're starting a widget company or a soccer team, right, to build it from the ground up. And to not just continue to build it, but to sustain it, and then start planning for, I'll call it, 2.0 and 3.0 of the business.
Yeah. Are you really good at spotting high performance people at this point?
I think I have gotten better at it, and I think most entrepreneurs would probably say the same thing, right? Of what were they like on, day one of their project versus day 1,000 of their project. So I absolutely, I think, have gotten better for that and understanding, it's the old analogy, right? You're driving the bus, and you can have lots of good people, but you got to get them on the right seats at the right financial model also. And so I do think by trial and error as we head into the finishing our 4th season, I certainly have gotten better at that. But I think like any entrepreneur, I call it small, medium-sized business owner, they know that's a skill that they have to continue to refine.
I feel like in America, and I only say that because we live in America, I feel like in America, all sports are kind of like a religion. You know, people are very passionate about it. They live for, you know, Saturday or Sunday so they can see their team, their favorite player, all of these things, and be a part of that experience and feel connected. How in the world were you able to find the fortitude to make it through what we've just gone through in terms of, you know, the pandemic and finding your way?
Yeah, listen, it's not just the Las Vegas Lights, right? There's so many
Agreed.
people that were affected by the 2020 calendar year, right?
And people who were less well-funded. I mean, you look
Yeah.
at like pro musicians and the touring industry. There's a lot of people that hurt.
Yeah, so from our perspective, right, the world shut down that Thursday, right, in early March, and our home opener was scheduled for that Saturday, right? So, you know, just very granularly, right? We had all the beer bought, we had all the hot dogs bought, we were
I
ready.
didn't think about that.
I mean, everything was ready, and it was funny when we sent the staff home that day saying, hey, the league's taking a 2-week break, right? You know, stay by your phones, right? And even then, not fully processing what was about to happen, which would be 20 plus months of no live events in a live event business. Incredibly difficult. You also talk about, you know, those companies, my heart just goes out for those companies that didn't have the funds to keep it afloat, and even, you know, some of the government assistance programs, but not being able to get the timing in and not understanding entrepreneurship of how that works. So I am even more fortunate that we were able to get out of it. It doesn't mean we're in the clear. It doesn't mean we don't still feel the effects.
Sure.
But I think there's also a level of you got to stay positive, and I joke that the lights are back on, and you see the lights at the end of the tunnel, and all of that. And I am actually really proud of the Golden Knights beat us by 1 day, right, in the playoffs. But we were the second, I'll call it, you know, full-scale live professional sporting event here in Nevada when we came back in June. And so there's a part of, we had partnered with the Castroverde Law Group here locally, right, of doing a Vegas is Back promotion. And now, you know, I don't want to say turn lemonade into lemons, or lemons into lemonade, sorry, right? But there's an aspect of, okay, this is where we're at. This is what it's been the last 20 minutes. We can't feel sorry for ourselves. How do we turn this into a positive? How do we welcome back frontline workers? How do we provide a program that those individuals that have been laid off from their jobs and finances have gotten really tight, how do we make this even more affordable to make sure that they can be part of this? And it absolutely involves pivots within your business. It also involves being very nimble as to what is it we exactly are offering, how exactly are we structured, and what exactly is our end goal, right? What is that end goal? And I see in my mind more and more clearly our end goal is to provide smiles and entertainment to the hardworking people of Las Vegas that want to come experience the highest level of professional soccer they can in this state.
Nice.
And there is a role for us, and there is a niche for us as I call it the world's most entertaining city hosting the world's most popular sport. There is a niche here, right? And does it still need some tweaking, and do we still have room to grow? Absolutely. But when you put all that together, we still have a really sunny future.
Nice. Do you, I guess this is more for my own personal inquiry, do you meditate? I mean, how did you keep your sanity?
I don't think my mind would be able to slow down like that. I don't know that I have a special answer like so many others.
I mean, you're a healthy guy, so it's not like you were going home and
healthy-ish.
pounding whiskey every night, you know, to wash your tears away. So.
But soda and candy bars maybe.
Okay.
I would say and this is a weird answer, and I wasn't expecting to necessarily share this, but I also really got into reading during I'll call it the forced break, and reading about business and reading about marketing and reading about sales and reading about other teams and reading about other industries that in some ways, again, while it's been very difficult to make some of the pivots that we've had to make as an organization, it also gave me kind of an opportunity to take a time out and to really reevaluate everything and figure out how can we best organize this for sustainable growth.
Wow.
So it kind of helps clear your brain, maybe not to the point of
does.
your meditation, but
but I get it. I mean, and just
really looking at things being forced to look at things from a 30,000 feet level, and then start diving down.
I'm actually glad to hear you say that, because I'm sure you already know this, but for people who don't have, I guess, a benefit of maybe time or age, or we'll call it wisdom. Hopefully we have wisdom.
Yeah.
But it's perspective can be everything. And so, you know, for some people you can get it through meditation or, you know, some form of spiritual guidance, whatever that may mean for individuals. But, you know, for you to go and read these, you know, these works from other people and to provide that and open that
I think it kind of goes back to your question on mentorship and who's your mentors.
Yeah.
I'll just emphasize again, right? Anyone, I would say anyone coming up into the business, but really at any age, the information is there in the library, on the internet, on the podcast. The information is there. You just got to go find it.
Even to be a pro sports team owner, you think? There's it doesn't seem like there's a plethora of that available, but maybe I'm not looking in the right spots.
I think if I don't want to sound too cheesy, if there's a will, a way of how would you structure those deals, how would that work, how can you go get community support, corporate partnership, support, pre-ticket sales, et cetera. There's a lot of different ways to structure those deals. I would say, and I agree. And I don't mean to make that too cheesy, like everyone can be president of the United States if you put your mind to it. That's not what I'm trying to say, but that there is a lot of information out there that you can go get. Skill sets that can lead to some good things.
But deal making at its core is deal making. It doesn't matter what the product or the I get it. You know, I understand that. I think I think it's really cool. You know, several times you've heard, and I'll admit, me, maybe it's because I'm a summer baby. I'm a bit of a more selfish person and a bit more introverted. But
feels like we could have a whole episode on that.
Well, you've got a birthday coming up, so yeah, I know. But I think for me, sometimes the community aspect of it can be, that's probably a challenge for me because admittedly, in being self-aware, I know I have a selfish side to me. And so how do you, because owning a pro sports team, you have to be community focused, but you also have to be a bit, I don't want to say greedy or stingy, but you also have to think internally, I guess.
It has to be a sustainable business.
Yeah, how do you balance that? Because
I think it's kind of innate, right? That it's one. I don't want to say one serves the other. That comes off too black and white.
Sure.
But you have to provide a product that the masses want, that they enjoy, and then part of that, there's a lot of layers to that onion as to what is it that the public exactly is looking for, right? And you can't be a master to all, right?
Sure.
In finding what that balance is, but there usually is a circular beneficial relationship when you put all that together of how do we bring this to the community in a way that the community will like, and corporate partners will like, and the ticket buy, right? I mean, it all ties back in together, right?
Yeah, and that's the balancing act, I guess. So, well, you've done a great job. I mean, it's clear you're, you know, you walk a tightrope every day, and you still find a way to get to the other side.
It's not too tight, right? I hope we're running at this point.
Yeah. But yeah, it's you know, I admire people with that skill set because again, you know, I'm a deal maker at the end of the day, and so being, you know, usually when you have that type of personality, you're like, I don't need anybody to tell me what to do, just show me where we're going, and we'll go there, and I'll get the deal done. But that's a selfish kind of mindset, I think, for me.
I don't know if I'd call it selfish,
Really?
but take that for maybe that's another episode. I also think you have to understand you're going to make mistakes, and that if you're too timid in trying new things and trying, you know, discussing and thinking and pressure testing pivots and ideas and thinking outside the box, that you can get really handcuffed very, very quickly.
Sure.
So I think you do have to. I think it's a beneficial skill that to not be afraid to try new things.
Yeah.
As long as you can kind of justify why do I think this might work.
Yeah.
I think keeping the status quo doesn't always work, especially when you're an up and coming sport and an up and coming, you know, league, et cetera, that you can't just do what the big guys are doing.
Yeah. Do you ever? I guess this is a two-part question. When you're doing that, when you're pressure testing a new idea, when you're floating a new concept to not just maybe your senior team, but everybody in the organization, there's either fear or skepticism. I guess skepticism is kind of rooted in fear, but how do you get everybody to march in the same direction, even if your idea seems a bit lofty, or maybe the financing hasn't come through to support an idea like that?
Listen, it's hard. So, you know, we are... or I am very proud that Sports Illustrated called us the most interesting team in America, right? From promotions to our partners to just our game day experience. And with that has certainly come with steps that were missteps, and with that has certainly come with ideas that took one step too far, and with that has come multiple ideas that, right, that there can be some staff and some fans and some partners that say, whoa, wait a second, this is not the way everyone else does it. So kind of being true to yourself and realizing, why are we doing this and what benefit can it come, and can this actually effectuate a positive change? I've learned you can't expect, there's all different types of people on that spectrum. You can't expect everyone to just buy in right away. And so you got to find that balance of explaining, this is why we're doing it, this is why we want to do it, this is why we think it can be beneficial. It may not work, and if that's the case, we can pivot back, but we've all got, this is the direction we're rowing in, right? And give them the clear direction of why we're doing it.
Nice. You ever experienced pushback?
Sure, of course, right? I mean, I don't think you can be the most interesting team in America with everyone thinking all your ideas are great. I mean, it wasn't a lesson I needed to learn, but it was a lesson to be relearned. And I go back to, you've got the bus, and how do you find, right? They're all good people, right? And how do you find the right people in the right spots on that bus for us to continue to grow as a club? Yeah.
When you when your eyes first open in the morning, whether it's an alarm clock or the sun's shining in on your face or whatever, how do you find inspiration to get up and go every single day?
So again, don't want to give too cheesy of an answer,
but it's okay if you do.
Well,
because remember, you're talking to people who may want to do what you do.
So my cheesy answer is, I have a five-week-old that will probably wake me up with a cry.
5 weeks.
5 weeks. Yes.
So you're not even sleeping.
My wife is sleeping less than I am. I shouldn't admit that, right?
Gotcha.
But, so that's probably the first thing that I think of to add a little levity to the conversation.
She's a champ.
Yes. The thing that drives me is, and it's an inner drive, is I want to make this work. I want to make this a sustainable long-term business, and I think we are well on our way, but I think we have only scratched the surface of what we can be. And I'll use the same cliche line. We have the world's most popular sport and the world's most entertaining city. We have 10,000 plus seats here, and we're only averaging 8,000 fans, right? So there is still room for growth. There's room for additional ways to continue to grow and brand the club. And I always say, bring smiles and laughs to the good people of Las Vegas. And that is both an inner drive on how do I operate this as a business, but also a drive of how do we just keep growing this within the community, and good things are going to happen. So I know that sounds like a rambling, cheesy answer, but I can't tell you how much that is a singular focus and how much that drives me personally, but also I think the club forward of we have so much more room to grow, and how do we do this in a responsible manner, knowing the snowball's building. Yeah.
Have you ever felt like, man, I don't know if there's that much gas left in the tank for me?
Not for me personally, but obviously, 20 months without live entertainment is not easy on the live entertainment business. And so, like so many other businesses, right? You have to strategize. Okay, what is this looking like? When is this going to end? How are we going to operate this in a prudent manner? So there's never a moment of quit, but there has absolutely been moments of we have to rethink this and we have to pivot as to how we're doing this.
Yeah. We've both been in situations where you have to deal with what's the proper way to say this without being offensive? Maybe, I don't want to say prima donna personalities, but I think in the athletic world and the business world and in every area where you have high performance people, they're going to be expected to be handled in a certain or a specific way. How do you manage that and also say this is also for the benefit of the team? We have to find that happy medium.
Yeah, so I'm sure there's people out there that will disagree with decisions I've made and how I've handled those situations. What I would say is all of those decisions, again, not to sound cliche, has to be made for what is the best interest of the club long term. And I think one of the things that, I'll pivot just a little bit in the answer, I think one of the things that is more difficult with a public facing company like we are, like you are in professional sports, is decisions are made externally where you can't necessarily always explain what are the reasons behind the curtain as to what's happening, right? It kind of goes back to the answer, right? That's not the fun part, right? The fun part is out on the field. And so I think there is that extra layer of good and bad with that public pressure. But I really believe every decision we've made is you look in the mirror and say, what is best for the club? Yeah. What is best for the long-term viability, the long-term growth, the long-term success of the club? And you just got to make tough decisions sometimes. Yeah. And knowing not everyone's going to like every tough decision, right? And there are days where you know people are talking behind your back, and you know X, Y, and Z is saying
or the
and
newspapers
thinking, and the newspaper and the TVs and the fans. But you just continue, at least I just continue to think, all right, I know this is a hot issue right now, but long term, where do we want to be? This, again, not that I haven't made mistakes, I'm making decisions for what I believe is going to do the best job of getting us to where we want to be.
There's an old saying, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. Yeah. Does that apply to pro sports? Because there's that element that you just mentioned. You have to do what's best for the team, but sometimes it's not always about money.
So I don't think it just applies to pro sports. I think it's any business, right? Whether it's a ma and pa or medium or a huge business, right? That, and again, it goes back, right? It's funny how I said this answer at the very beginning. I keep going back to it. You know, especially in pro sports, we don't want to talk about the dollars and cents, right? It's kind of like behind the curtain and just turn the lights on and let the players play and let that be the entertainment, even though that's 2 hours of the week of what it is. But yeah, there has to be an ROI, a return on investment. I think no matter what type of business you are, and that can cause, if people don't grasp that concept, it can cause for some tough conversations and some tough feelings. Yeah. But we're no different than any other business, right? If it's not generating the money to continue to build this, to keep it going, clearly there has to be some pivots made.
It makes sense. Can an NBA coach an MLS or USL team? Is it because we talked, and the reason I'm asking that is because
that's not a question I was expecting.
No, it's okay. And if you don't have an answer, the reason I'm asking is because we talked about deal making is deal making. Yeah, you have to find out what the pain points are. Yeah, you have to figure out what the win-win
I'll
for
answer
everybody.
it with 2 points. I have always said I am not a soccer expert, and I've always said I can't be.
Wait. But even with all of your experience in the world,
it's all on the
soccer.
business. It's on the business side. Okay. To say that I know whether to play a 4-4-2 or a 3-4-3, et cetera, and this guy can do this position. I don't have as strong of an interest in it, and I know it's a skill set that is needed to be able to put that tactically together and to understand here's your budget of players and how do you do that. Right. So I have always. And it's hurt me at times, right? That I have always hired someone to oversee the soccer operations department that would report to me. So I am not a soccer expert, right? I think that's actually a good trait that you can acknowledge where's your expertise and where you're not. And so when you ask, this is a long-winded answer. When you ask, can an NBA coach a MLS team? My answer is twofold. When you say deals are deals and deal making is deal making, I think man management is very similar, right? Whether you're man managing in a business or a basketball locker room or a soccer locker room is the same. But any deal, any business deal you're doing, you still need an expertise in the industry, right? So no, I don't think an NBA coach could coach an MLS team. I do believe an NBA coach could manage the locker room, if that makes sense, but they would absolutely need someone with a soccer coaching expertise. Just like I wouldn't be able to go do a deal in the tech space as well as you, and I don't think you would be able to do a deal in the sports space as well as me.
Right. No, that's a great answer. And honestly, that wasn't in any of my questions, just the conversation kind of me,
I think there's different things, like different roles and skill traits that you have, right? And obviously being a good coach, you have to be able to manage a lot of strong personalities, but you also have to understand your specific industry, which would be soccer strategy.
No, I like it, and you know, we harp about self-awareness on this show a lot, but
Yes.
you know, your comment
Yeah.
shows that you know you got at least a fair grasp on that, because
Hopefully.
if you don't,
Yeah.
then you know you're you're going to waste a lot of time and a lot of money,
Yeah.
and nobody wants that. When you go back
Yeah.
to your ROI conversation, does money, you know, we're talking about money, does money always walk hand in hand with happiness?
No.
No. Yeah.
No, I mean, not to get too spiritual
It's
or
okay.
to that, right? No, I don't think so. I also believe, you know, the smart aleck comment of, you know, having money helps, though, right?
does.
Like, let's
It
not.
can solve some problems.
Yeah, I don't want to be too flippant with that. But I think your question can also be phrased as, when you're talking to a startup like we are, right, and a business owner, and especially a small, medium-sized business, money is needed to keep that going, and how do you build something? So, yeah, it's a long-winded answer.
No, I get it.
Of saying being in a startup is very different than, I'll call it,
Yeah.
being Jeff Bezos.
Not a bad job.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about the state of pro sports, and as it applies specifically to you and your operation? But then what is outside of your operation that you really want to see change, but maybe hasn't yet?
So what do I think of pro sports and like the industry? I think live entertainment will continue to grow. I think you're going to continue to see a lot of diversity of sports and levels and teams and all that. I think, I'm not sure this answers your question, but we announced this team in summer of 2017, and you know, Las Vegas was obviously Las Vegas. But just think about what the sports landscape was then. The Golden Knights had not ever played a game, much less gone on to be the most successful expansion Major League Sports team in the history of Major League Sports. That they would be successful, they'd have a second hockey team. That an NFL team would be moving here and building a $2 billion, that the WNBA would move here, that minor league baseball would go build a stadium and set every record imaginable with attendance and everything else, that we would now have, I think it's an indoor football team and an indoor lacrosse team, and we have all of this happening here. To me, it's raising tides raise all ships, right? We're a big city, we deserve it. But I think it also shows people are looking for experiences. They want something to experience with their buddies, with their family, and I would also say at this level of professional sports, right? It's very different than the Golden Knights and the Raiders level, of keeping it very affordable and keeping it very unique and fan experience first. Makes a big difference, and I think that's only going to continue in the years to come, based on the cost of, I'll call it, Major League Sports.
Yeah. Do you think one thing that I love about Las Vegas is I liked the whole, and some people may disagree with me on this, but I liked the gritty, the bad boy image.
Sin City, yes.
Sin City, yeah. And I'm finding, or at least it feels this way to me, that is kind of fading to black as we kind of move into this new era with and I love the fact that we have pro sports. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love it. But you know, with behavior clauses and things like that, I feel like will that permeate the culture? Will the Sin City element fade away?
I think we're always going to have a Sin City element, and you know, before moving here, I lived in Orlando, Florida, right? The other, you know, tourism capital of North America. And it was funny. I always felt like the residents of Orlando had this kind of love-hate relationship with the mouse, right?
I agree.
And it was always like trying to differentiate themselves, but also, gosh dang, Disney does a lot for that community.
Sure.
When I moved here, and my family had lived here for many years, I don't feel that, right? I don't feel like anyone's embarrassed to live in Las Vegas. I don't feel like, you know, we all kind of roll our eyes when they ask, do you live on the Strip, right? But I don't think there's any embarrassment of who our community is. Right. And so I'm going to give you another answer. I've always been a big believer that professional sports teams should take on the identity of their community, right? And I use the example of, that NY on that black Yankees cap, it means something about the Bronx, right? And the Green Bay Packers will always be this blue collar, lunch pail, small upper Midwest mentality, right?
Sure.
It just, it reflects their community. The Lakers, even before LeBron and when those dark years, right? They were still Showtime and Hollywood, et cetera, et cetera. So I always thought, okay, we have this amazing advantage because you can go anywhere in the world, and you just say the words downtown Vegas, and it immediately elicits something. Those of us that live here may think what it elicits are like, it's not reality, but it elicits something, and that has given us a platform to kind of, I don't want to say embrace Sin City, but to embrace being the most interesting team in the world. There's something about playing in downtown Las Vegas that allows you to give you a swagger that maybe my colleagues in Albuquerque and Tulsa and other in Birmingham can't do.
Yeah. No, I'd never thought about it from that perspective, but I agree with you. And to your point, to kind of further that, it doesn't matter. I'm very fortunate I get to travel frequently, and actually even during the pandemic, which some people may poo-poo me for. But, I get to travel to all the, and inevitably, where are you from?
Yeah.
From Las Vegas. Oh, Las Vegas. I haven't been, or I want to go, or I've been. Best time of my life, or I got married there. Everybody is familiar with the brand. So, I get what you're saying. Yeah. That's awesome. What advice would you give to a young kid wanting to do exactly what you do? Who's coming up? Who says, listen, maybe I'm too short to dunk, or I can't hit the long ball the right way, or I'm not fast enough to get on a.
So I would say a couple things, and I can't believe I'm mentioning this now for the third time. The internet is a powerful tool to learn from. The second thing is, don't be afraid to reach out to people. I was incredibly fortunate, and I think it was just reaching out sincerely, right, to have cups of coffees with 100+ sports executives in my 20s and 30s, right? And so I think if you approach people the right way, people are always interested in talking about what they're an expert in subject matter-wise. And everyone's an expert in their own, who they are and how they got there, right? So it's a very easy conversation to have when you ask about, can you tell me about how you got there and what did you do and what advice you would have? And then again, everyone is at a different socioeconomic status and everyone's at a different point in their lives, et cetera, et cetera. For me, being able to just take any jobs that I can to just continue to learn the various different skill sets, right? And I always kind of looked at it as a pyramid of skill sets, and I just need to try and get as many of these skill sets at the bottom so I can, when I go to the next level, I can kind of just keep building upon those. And everyone comes up in the business in different ways, but try and learn as much as you can, get a little bit of taste of all the other things in your industry, because I think it'll go a long way if you've kind of at least walked a half a mile in someone's shoes.
Yeah. I know I've only got you for a few more minutes.
Yeah.
What's the biggest mistake you made in business? If you don't want to share, you don't have to, but it just came to me.
I think, and I'm not sure it's the quote unquote the biggest mistake. I think whether it's in this opportunity or in others, right? You make decisions at the time based on the information you have and based on what you think is going to happen. And sometimes when you look back at that 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 5 years later, you realize, man, I misjudged what was needed here, and that can lead to some tough situations. So I don't know if I would point out a specific mistake, but I think it kind of goes back to what I said previously. You have to keep looking in the mirror and having some tough conversations with yourself as to what is it that you want out of your business, the office, et cetera, to make it work.
Nice. What other questions did I miss?
I think I would just talk about the Las Vegas Lights for a second, right? That
please do.
We're singing and dancing and cheering and going ole, 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 and bringing a little slice of Mexico City and a slice of London and a slice of Barcelona here to Las Vegas. And we are a community that can absolutely support multiple professional sports teams, but there's a niche in the year 2021 with soccer, right? And that when I started in soccer back in 1996, it was kind of viewed as a European sport, or was a Hispanic sport, and that's just not the case today in 2021. It is every socioeconomic status, background is and can enjoy these games, and we try to make it incredibly affordable. And so I always say, if you haven't been to a game, come to a game, because I know if I get you here once, I'm going to get you to keep coming back. Then I make the joke, if you come to a game and you really don't like it, then there's something wrong with you, and I don't want you to come to my house again, right? Like that's. So I would just encourage all your listeners that are here in Las Vegas, right? Come give us a try.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I always ask the question, like, are you a sports fan? Are you a soccer fan, etc. And this lady told me the other day, she goes, I don't like soccer. She goes, I don't like sports. And I said, do you like Las Vegas? She goes, I love Las Vegas. I said, then we are for you, right? We got Las Vegas on it, and we are going to make you feel proud of your city. And there's enough going on during a game that you don't have to be just a soccer fan to make it work, because our business model is predicated that we've got to expand past just the niche of soccer fans. We've got to make this welcoming to everyone. So I would encourage all the viewers out there on the World Wide Web to give us a look at lightsfc.com and come to a game. I know they'll like it.
I like it, and Christian, he's bragging to me. He's got season tickets, so I'm not going to be outdone. I'm gonna do the same thing, because it's an easy Saturday night anytime too, and it's right down the road. Where can people? I know you mentioned the website. Where else can people find not only you but the team and keep in touch and find?
The website's the best place, right? Go at lightsfc.com. You can reach me at talkingsoccer@lasvegaslightsfc.com. Or at brett.lashbrook at lasvegaslightsfc.com. I always say when people come to the first game, if I give them tickets, I said, I'll give you a ticket, but you got to send me an email. What we do right, what we do wrong, and what can we do better, right? To just continue to get feedback as we continue to grow the club. So anyone out there who hasn't been to a game, come to a game, send me an email, let me know what we did right, what we did wrong, what we can do better.
Gonna love it. Awesome. Brett, I can't thank you enough for taking time. I know you're a busy guy and you got a lot on your plate. I saw the guys downstairs stuffing boxes. Full of
we told you, it's not always glamorous. It's not always glamorous.
I love it. It's boots on the ground, and that's what it's about, to keep an organization moving forward. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. And I had a blast.
Thank you.
There we go. Light it up.
Light it up. There we go. Viva lights.
Guys, you heard it from the man himself. I mean, having to endure everything that we've been going through on this planet, they're still continuing to push forward. Find the fortitude, dig deep, go out and make it happen for yourself. Until we talk to each other again, be good to yourselves, be good to each other.